I'm Irene and myself and Trevor are here. We run your planning skills programme, and in a moment I'll be introducing Jill Patterson and Isabel Davis from Angus Council, who will run through what they've been doing up there and their use of this community engagement tool. And then we will, as I say, have a very short demo from Collin Isabel, who's sitting in Australia. So this will be testing our webinar skills to have that happening at the same time. It's an interesting one for us because we really are bringing together our digital skills around not just having a webinar, but that it being around online engagement and how to use such a tool, and also the fact that the thinking behind even having this webinar began with a Twitter conversation, I think, between Jill and Susan Brooks in Loch Lomond. So we're embracing new ways of learning as well as having events, which is great. And I encourage you all, even if you're not on Twitter at the moment, to go on. Don't feel you've got to actually tweet or say anything, but if you follow us, you'll get updates on future events and webinars as well. And there's plenty others to follow and keep up to date on things. Our programme for today will last for an hour. We'll have about 30-35 minutes of presentation time, and then we will go over to questions after that. And Trevor's just going to explain a little about how to submit your questions, which can be done as you're listening into the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. We have set up the webinar so that it's only going to be ourselves and Angus Council and Social Pinpoint who can speak. We have, if you look to the right-hand side of your screen, you will have a control panel, and one of the boxes is questions. Please type in anything there, whether it is questions for the webinar itself, which we'll pass on to the panelists at the appropriate part, or any technical issues, and I will endeavour to answer them as quickly as I can. I'll just pass you back to Irene.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you. As we say, any issues then just type in that box and we'll do whatever we can to assist. And I'll pass over now to Jill Patterson in Angus Council. Hi, Jill.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Just to take you through a wee overview of what we're going to cover today, we thought it would be useful to chat about our experience of using digital engagement and some of the lessons that we've learned, things that have gone well and things that haven't gone quite so well. Have a look at some of the benefits of digital engagement first of all, then look at how we got to where we're at. We had a look at different options and what we wanted from looking at digital engagement. My colleague Collin Isabel from Social Pinpoint, who's our software provider, is going to give an overview of some of the tools that that particular platform provides and a little bit of a demonstration. And Collin will let you all know that there will be an opportunity to play about with the demo site for a couple of weeks after the webinar today if you want to have a look at how it works. Have a look at using different skills as planners. So we've had to come up with how do we as planners do some marketing to get people on our web platform. And in Angus Council we actually have quite a very small support and technical resource, so we've had to do a lot of stuff in-house within the planning team, using a lot of skills in building our engagement and also how we promote that, so we'll cover a wee bit about that. My colleague Isabel is going to have a look at one of the case studies that she's been working on, and we're delighted to announce that that project's actually received funding from Places for Everyone this week, part of which is built on some of the experience on community engagement. And really just to finish off is to take you through our final thoughts on our experience to date and where we're going next in terms of engagement. Just at the bottom of the page there for you all is our Angus Council Engagement Hub homepage, which is shapingangus.gov.uk, and that contains all our digital engagement projects that we've got ongoing and some of our closed projects, so ones that we've done, but it provides an opportunity for people to be able to go and have a look at what engagement have we undertaken and what happened, and we update those pages as well. So, why on earth would you do digital engagement in the first place? Well, actually, most of your customers are probably already online. Anybody that's a member of a local community Facebook group, the council puts something out and there's a huge debate online about it. So there's already those conversations happening. So why not tap into those conversations? The ability to reach an awful lot more diverse people and diverse voices. So if you think of young people, working mums, they're online all the time. I suspect most of the people listening today will have a mobile phone and probably spend quite a bit of their day on their mobile phone. So everybody is already online, and it taps into all those people who in a planning world you probably wouldn't normally engage with. By having a dedicated engagement platform, it avoids people creating their own discussions. So I mentioned there around all these community discussions on Facebook. By having a dedicated space allows people to have that in a controlled environment where we as officers can interact with those people. We've got the authority to be able to do that, and people can see what everybody else is chatting about rather than across 5, 6, 7 different Facebook groups or more. The fact that it's online, if you want to log in at 11 o'clock at night and make a comment on a project, do it during your lunch hour, on your way to work, commuting, waiting at the bus stop, you can get on and do that. You don't need to wait for a Tuesday night in a village hall at 8 o'clock where somebody's going to be there to speak about it. And for example, in an area like Angus, where we're rural in nature, we do, yes, have connection issues, and I'll come on a wee bit later to chat about how we engage with those that aren't online. But for that rural population, it lets them interact and involve in our projects. The engagement tool as well allows us to actually analyse the activity as it's happening. So because it's a live engagement project, and we'll chat you through some of the spikes and things that happen, the tool actually gives us analytics as part of that, so we can see how many people have been on the website at particular points, and it allows us to tag comments as they come in, respond to participants, and produce direct reports from the platform. So at the end of the engagement exercise, the tool that we have available actually lets us, it collates a lot of the information for us. So if we're tagging comments as they come in, the tool will pull that information together. It's dead quick and easy to get involved. So some of our engagements, we have people on and off the website within about 20 seconds and they post a comment. And Isabel and myself will talk about some of our experience of the pros and cons on that. Cost effective. I think it goes without saying that having an officer sat at a desk responding to comments doesn't involve us booking a village hall, organising a meeting, arranging catering. So it's much more cost effective in terms of use of officer time, and again allows us to reach an awful lot more people. And the important thing as well is that it will help increase offline participation. So if you've got more people engaged online in something, it's more likely that they're going to come along to a session that you maybe have in person to cover more complex issues. So how did we get to where we got to? We had undertaken some work through a European programme called LIKE, which is part of digital innovation. And we had initially looked at across council services of what sort of what things did people want out of digital engagement across different council services. Being planners, we jumped up and down and said we want to be able to do things via a map, and had seen some tools used in other local authorities that had the ability for people to log comments via a map. One of the bits of feedback from the researchers who were doing work on behalf of a variety of council services, looking at crowdfunding platforms, different platforms for different activities, they said some of the restrictions with some of these map tools were the fact that you could just log comments. If you're doing engagement, engagement's a two-way thing. So as officers, you want to be able to communicate with the people who are logging the comments, not just receive the comments. So they said one of your key requirements moving forward needs to be the ability to interact with participants online to get the most out of your engagement tool. What we did thereafter was we did a bit of research. One of my colleagues in the development plan team was delighted to do some research of all the different tools available. We narrowed that down and we demoed and tested probably around 3 or 4 different tools in depth, just to see what the functionality of those was, what benefits they offered to us as a council and also other council services. So the process was led by planning, but in consultation with our colleagues in the housing service, our communities team, which consequently we now actually have those two teams together from when we started out. The other thing for us was within Angle Council we have no technical support available in-house. It's very, very limited. So for us a lot of it was around usability, was could the layman pick up and run with the project, and interestingly in testing a couple of colleagues were able to get projects up and running within an hour. They might not have been the best project in the world, but they said it was dead easy for them to jump in and start using this particular tool that we've ended up with. There is also some other good platforms out there. There was a whole host of reasons why we went with Social Pinpoint, which we can cover a wee bit later on. The other thing that we looked at was, again, being planners, was there any integration in terms of our GIS data? So we've got loads and loads of layers, and occasionally we want to ask for comments on particular data that we have, and thereafter could we integrate and pool information across from our GIS platform? And the platform that we've ended up with does in fact do that, and actually allows us to undertake surveys based on particular layers, of which our local landscape areas was one where we tested that out in a bit of detail. Ultimately as well, an area of reducing resource availability was the cost of any platform. So variety that we tested, again, we looked at the different costs associated with those. And one of the things we picked up was different platforms offer a host of different options, all of which may vary depending on what support you have available to your council, what costs you have. Some of the platforms will actually take your project and build it for you. Social Pinpoint itself is a license that we have, and the projects are actually all built in-house by ourselves, which has a number of added benefits in terms of means that we can produce a digital engagement based on the specific project rather than necessarily whether we have a budget available or not. So I'm going to do a very, very brief little bit look at the tool, and then I'm going to pass on to Collin over in Australia to take you through, chat about some of these tools in a bit more detail, and then also show you a demo of the site and chat around maybe some of the technicalities. So as I mentioned there, the project sits with Angus Council, the setup of those, and we have Social Pinpoint on hand to help us with setting up those projects, give us some examples of what other clients have used elsewhere, and also where we've hit any technical problems. I'm not sure how to do this. They'll pop in and give us a hand and help us work through that. We have an Engagement Hub homepage, so that is where all our digital engagement projects sit on the website, and I showed you the web link to that earlier. Different tools available, and Collin's going to take you through some of these, is surveys. So it's a bit like your Survey Monkey. You want to ask some people questions about things, we can do a digital survey via that. We have forums. So what do you think of the new planning bill? We can have a discussion forum on that, and people can discuss things around that topic, and we can interact with them that way. Mapping, which is probably our favourite one as a planner, and we quite often use the aerial photos of that, finding it's the one that people most easily relate to where they live, what's happening round about them. Our ideas wall, which is in effect an electronic post-it wall, and that's one we're using at the moment for our local development plan to ask people to post what they think are some of the key issues popping up for them. And a new one which we've worked with Social Pinpoint on developing is participatory budgeting. So I'm just going to pass over to Collin via Trevor to take you through that in a wee bit more detail.
Thanks, Jill. I think I'm just waiting on Trevor to send me the screen. Here we go. And sorry, 2 seconds there. Hang on. Here we go. Found it. That screen there. Looks good. Yeah, so thanks, Jill. As you saw there, we've obviously got a number of different tools, and a lot of engagement platforms have a number of different tools. What we wanted to do is set up a quick demo that you, after the webinar, can have a look at and have a play with, and just sort of get a feel for what those tools do, how you might be able to use them. and things like that. So as Jill said, we obviously have mapping, which is our primary one and probably one that you actually would be interested in. But just before we get to the map, what we actually do is have a concept called pages, and it's like basically like a website builder that allows you to put all your engagement tools in the one spot and really give your community a place where they can put the information in and engage with you guys online. Now, you may not need this, and this is where Social Pinpoint shines, I believe, where we're very flexible. So if you only need a map, or you only need an ideas wall, or you only need surveys, you can do that, and use your own websites to, as your engagement hub. But if you don't have that, or you're stuck just with a council page and you want to have a full engagement platform like what Angus has done, you can do that too using our pages. In general, Social Pinpoint, like it's been mentioned, is a self-service platform. So that reduces your cost. You guys can do it. We do, however, do consulting and can build up whole platforms, pages, maps as well for you as well. It just depends. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can for our clients, depending on your needs and when and how you need to get them built. So this is the actual demo site. So I'll use that as just as a quick demo. I haven't configured every type of tool. So what I think we should do is, as you use this afterwards, definitely send me your email and we can actually add you into the account so that way you can get into the administration side as well, because just in January you wouldn't be able to get that. So here's just a sort of a page where you can put some information about what you might want the public to see, and then a get involved area allows you to sort of really broadcast the types of tools to get the engagement that you might need. So here I've got like a map saying, hey, come and view the map. We've also got an ideas wall, or we've got a discussion. So if I just jump over to the map, for example. Now our map, Social Pinpoint started in mapping, so that's our most, I guess, advanced feature. And for planners, you might be interested in, not only do we have numerous different base map styles and configurable base map styles, but you can also load all your GIS tools on top as well. So here we've got Edinburgh with just I think they're the council boundaries that have been loaded in on here. And for an end user, it's as simple as, dragging pins on a map, leaving a comment, leave some comment. And I think Jill sort of alluded to it. Not only do you get the comment coming in, but you can then respond back, which I can show you back on the admin in a second. All responses in Social Pinpoint are scanned for profanity, links, URLs, things like that. We try to keep everything open. So if someone drops a pin, it's actually generally by default visible to the public. However, if any of those like links or profanity gets triggered, it'll get hidden and you're able to review it. So you can keep the community safe and control the conversation. Now these map pages, as you can see here, all the pins, all the colors, all the content that you may or may not want on this sort of site, they're all configurable by you. And so I'll just jump back to this one. The next thing that you might want to look at is just like the ideas wall type tool. Not everything is a map. So sometimes you just want to get ideas, and they're really great. Ideas walls are really great for like very early in a project where you're not totally sure, you want the community to give you some feedback. Maybe it's just 20 years out, what do you like about the town? So this is where this sort of shines. It's like a digital ideas, a digital post-it notes, I should say. And it's just as simple as coming along and leaving your idea on here. The survey functionality too can be added in here. So once you drop a pin or add a post-it note, you can add sort of that Survey Monkey type forms here, whether or not it's select boxes, radio boxes, ranking, things like that. So you can get quite complex about the types of submissions that you might want to get. That one's pretty simple. As I said, there's not much on this as a demo. So hopefully after this, you can come in and add your own in here as well. Maybe use it to ask questions and we can get back to you. A discussion is just a bit more of a targeted sort of ideas. Well, it's not really nice. It's just one particular question or topic or thread that you would like discussion on, and people can come in here and not only reply back to your main discussion point, but they can also reply back to each other and have a bit of dialogue about that. I've just spent a few minutes just showing you the types of ways to get responses in. Obviously, we also have full surveys, and we have the new participatory budgeting tool that we developed for Angus. So that's another one that you might want to have a look at. But not only that, but on the pages themselves, there's lots of other little widgets that you can put on there. They're not so much for people to give you information, but they're for you to give the public information. So in that case, it might be FAQs, it might be documents, it might be galleries of images and things like that. It might be when your next events are coming up. There's all those type of widgets that you can put on these pages. And if you want to have a look at some examples of them, you can just click on the demo site, just click on the live projects. It'll go off to our Social Pinpoint website where we list hundreds of our projects there if you want some inspiration. Now, again, if you do send the email afterwards, we can add you in as an account, an admin account holder, so you can actually log into the backend, which might be useful. And here you can see this is sort of just the types of projects we were running there. We had an interactive map and an ideas wall. So if I just jump in here, this is where everything gets configured. So like, for example, in the map, which is probably the most interesting one, you can see here where we had that Edinburgh map configured. And like Jill was alluding to before, you can easily add all your other GIS files, like through shape files or GeoJSON, onto your maps here. Now, if you don't have them and you just want to get started quickly, our map has full support for drawing your own layers as well. So here you can see it's just as easy for me to add a new layer here. And if I cheat and just jump back and we'll load that map up quickly, you should see there's our layer there. So you can see, like Jill said before, you know, some of the projects take less than an hour to get up and running. Once you know the system, you can really get them out quite fast. Now, of the projects, like with each project, we obviously collect a lot of data. We collect all sort of real-time visit and engagement data that you'd expect. We have word clouds that come up. All the responses can be voted on, so we track popular comments, the top comments, things like that. And then you're able to tag all the comments as well. So we do that in the responses view. So as they come in, you're able to categorize them or respond back appropriately. So for example, let's have a look at this one. So here's a comment that's come in. Now our sentiment analysis is automatically using machine learning has picked up that this is a positive comment, great walks along here. You might tag that as recreation or something, which allows you to do some reporting on that. Or you might even send back, yes, we love that walk. And that's where you can get that two-way dialogue with the public. We have advanced analytics as well. We capture where that comment was placed, and we also tie into any online marketing tags that you may have applied. So if you're doing Facebook or online advertising, you can actually see where people are coming from when they leave your pins to help sort of direct your marketing efforts. And then each project also has a bunch of reports. So there's lots of graphs around the types of pins that were dropped, when they were dropped, the tags, the categorization that you've done. So you can play around with these, get the right sort of, obviously this one doesn't have a lot of data in it. Play around with the types of graphs that you might need, and then you export them out into your own reports. In addition, just quickly, you can see as the responses come in, they come in from on a particular stakeholder. And for example, if this is one I prepared earlier, this is one of the comments I logged. You can see for each stakeholder what they've actually commented, where they've commented on. And again, you can even tag them as well with particular types of tagging, depending on how you want to categorize your stakeholders. When you've done that, you can then use that to segregate your stakeholders and actually email them with our email system, which allows you to keep them up to date with things they may be interested in, or just allow you to email them of new updates that are coming. And then just lastly, I probably just want to show you that page that we just were on, how simple it is with the page builder to come along and add new components and things. So there's this is the admin view of that page that we looked at earlier. It's quite easy to come in here and, for example, add an event widget in, which might show upcoming events for this project. All I need to do is publish it. And now if I drop back, we should have our events widget up here. So like, as you see, we've tried to make it as easy as we can for you to get stuff out to the public as quick as you can in a manner to really get that dialogue happening. So I think that's just a quick few-minute overview of Social Pinpoint. Obviously, you know, it's a full-blown engagement platform, so we have lots of features. We actually have free trials that you can just get on and try and use it, and we're always supporting those trials too. So if you jump on, have a play, reach out to us if you need any help, and we're there to help you guys. So I might switch that back to Jill now, Trevor.
Okay, thanks very much, Colin. So I just wanted to cover a little bit about how we, once you've got a platform available, all the different tools you have to get people on the platform, because it's no good if people just don't know about it. So we're quite lucky in Angus Council, and I know from speaking to colleagues elsewhere that not always councils are so positive about us having our own Angus Council planning Twitter account. So we use that quite extensively on our projects to tag different organisations. So I've got a couple of examples there on the right hand side, and one of the things we've certainly as planners is thinking quite differently around something short and snappy to get people interested. So that one there says, do you love or hate the E92 in Arbroath? And that was one of my colleagues that came up with that, which was, and then join the discussion. So is giving them the URL, putting that out on Twitter or Facebook, and try and get a snappy title and tag organisations in to get that message out as quickly as possible. What is also useful is, again, as a planner, putting your head in a marketing person's view is developing a marketing plan. So we generally have found that 4 weeks minimum period seems to work best for an engagement, longer if possible. But plan what messages you want to put out when throughout the period of the engagement exercise. And for example, we've taken screenshots of some of our interactive maps or our word clouds and used that to, again, direct people to the platform. I mentioned earlier about the analytics, so if you can see quite often when we've put out a new tweet or a new message via our community Facebook groups, which are managed through our communities team, we've seen a little spike in the website and people going on to that. One of the things we're looking at moving forward is actually developing some business cards with the Engagement Hub webpage on it, so that we can leave them in coffee shops and whatever Angus Council's got in terms of digital engagement. And the more different services are using the tool, the more we see that there's always generally tends to be at least one project on the go. Maybe while someone's having a cup of coffee, I don't know if they will, but they might click on and have a look at what we've got on the go at the moment. We also worked with Abertay last year to produce a short video clip, which I would have loved to show today. We've got a wee technical issue with it, we just need to get resolved, which is a very short 30-second clip about, did you know, all about places and housing, and we haven't actually used the word planning in there at all, but again, it's directing traffic to our URL. How did we engage and how we're looking to engage with those who aren't necessarily online? And that's one of the most common things that's come up from different services, from members of the public, is I can't get online, how do I do that? So we have linked some of our projects up with our Digital Volunteers programme, which is called DigiKen, to build people's digital skills and match them up with a volunteer to help them log their comment. But most importantly, and the one thing I will mention from today, is it shouldn't replace but complement your offline activities and engagement opportunities. So you can't do everything digitally and online. You could, and we've done a couple of projects where we have, just by sheer time scale and resource, had to put those online. But I would always say, wherever possible, supplement that with workshops and events. And if you're doing that, why not take tablets or laptops along to that event? So you're actually still doing things digitally, you're getting them in the one place, but you're doing that through an in-person event. What we're also looking to do as part of our local development plan is to get some of our communities colleagues to take tablets out on the street and get people's views about their place. Coming on to sort of interacting with the community online, and this is what we found useful, is actually the ability to have a two-way conversation as part of the engagement, is to build in time, make sure when you launch your engagement you build in time to review and respond to comments. So if you've got an engagement project, maybe logging into the page every couple of days to check the comments that have been received and respond to those as if you would in person. So what I've said to some officers is it's just like having a chat to somebody as if you were at a public exhibition. You're having that conversation with them. You know, if there's a point of fact that they've got incorrect, you can log in and say to them, actually, have you seen this bit of information on our website? Have a look here, it will give you some more information about it. If you require lots of user information up front, it actually puts people off going on the website. So we actually had a different platform before and we found that people just didn't use it. So what we've done is, I think that in line with GDPR, the minimum information you need from people, get that up front and people are actually more inclined to comment. And what you can actually do thereafter is, once they've logged their comment, ask them maybe for some more information. If you don't mind, would you be able to tell us a little bit about yourself to pull that in? But again, the minimum information you need from people. I'm going to pass on to Isabel, who's very quickly going to run through use of the tool in practice.
The project started first stage was finishing just at the time we got Social Pinpoint. So we used it at the end of stage 1. And one thing that taught us is you need to make sure that if you're producing information, it's compatible with the system. It was difficult, but we did get some interest from it. As we moved into Community Links Plus, part of the emphasis on that was on participation, involvement with people and how you get to people. The advantage we had with Social Pinpoint is it keeps everything together. You can put your calendar up, you can introduce people to it, you can report back on events, you can put detailed information and reports if people want to use them. One thing I will say is that people tend not to read what's there, so you need to keep things clear and straightforward. Don't clutter things up. For our growth, there is not a really good central venue that people use. So we were able to advertise the fact that we were going into Morrison's to do a pop-up, or we were doing events around the town, going on the street and so on. And that helps just spread the information out there. It also allows us to reach an audience we may not normally reach. In terms of gathering information, we explained as part of the survey, we asked for certain data. And that was there to allow us to monitor where we're reaching the right people, where we're reaching the right age group, where we're reaching all areas of the town. No detailed information was kept, and that helped us just work out where we're missing parts. The analysis and the graphics that came through from Pinpoint were also useful for putting a presentation together. It has also developed with the project. As we move into the next stage, we will recycle the Community Links Plus into the places for everyone and go back there, and it creates a platform that people are aware of. They know it's there, they understand it, and they can come in and out. It's easy to access. It has the online support. Sorry, I'm just reading where we were. One of the problems that we do find with this is it's slightly constrained format in the text that you can use, in the number of characters. The advantage that has, though, is it gives us sort of a standard format, so there's familiarity when you go into any project. Watch for creating long scroll downs because people lose interest. People like graphics. We find that the images are good. Talking heads are supposed to be helpful, and we will be developing and using this project through the next stage of the places for people, because it allows us to communicate directly with people. We can point everybody through whatever media into that format. We can keep tag of what's happening, we can see where we're missing, we can advertise the events that we're doing. But as Jill says, it's very much part of a broader participative platform. It's good, but it's not the answer to everything. And just on a final note, it's just to be adding, we're working on a schools project currently as part of the development plan. And one of the things that has come through would be an interest from the schools in having their own private Pinpoint exercise so that they can use it through schools just to get general comments back through. So all the time we're finding new ways of working with this. So yeah, it's a way forward.
Okay, so just to finish off was really just a wee kind of overview of our broad overall experience, how we found it, how we found engaging with people digitally, because it's certainly different from us. I would say absolutely positive, but lots and lots to learn along the way. Keeping conversations to the platform and not drifting off into social media. We've had to kind of interact a little bit with the social media to say, by the way, can you pop on our platform and let us know your great idea on there as well. Very much it's a different way of structuring your engagement activities, so don't try and retrofit. We tried doing that with the project and it just didn't work. Plan ahead and select the right tool for the job, not the fancy looking one which colleagues elsewhere in the service have gone, oh, but that looks really smart, but does it going to get you the results that you want and what you're wanting to ask people? Spend lots of time planning the questions and test them against colleagues who are not planners. And keep them short. People don't want to read long questions. They don't want to read any jargon. We as planners think we've removed the jargon, but colleagues elsewhere have said, I don't understand that. So always test your questions and your engagement that you're wanting people to do. I think Isabel mentioned and Collin mentioned as well, keep text short. We've put quite a bit of information on the website, but people generally just jump straight into getting their comments logged and will generally not always read all the supporting information you have. What I would say, it's a really good tool to engage people in discussions about their place and other topics, but it's not a detailed tool for doing a debate on housing numbers and lots of technical discussion, because the platform is just not set up to do that. Yes, it will let you upload documents and let people view those, but it's a friendly, fun way of getting people to discuss issues around their place as part of that. Remember to update the projects pages during the project and provide feedback to all the participants via the mailing tool. Your community engagement tool is only as good as the feedback you give to people, to what happened to their comments and what happened next. Just moving, what next? We've built a dedicated page for our Angus local development plan, and partly because of the nature of our service, our development plan team are conjoined with communities. We've got quite a significant pre-plan engagement period, which is looking to engage communities around broader discussions about their place, how they want it to develop in future, pull them into some topics that we're looking at through the development plan, such as the rural development strategy. So we're going to chat to people about, what's happening in the rural areas, how's that, how would they like to see those developed? And we've got a series of engagement activities over the next few months. Okay, that's us. And so any questions from people?
Oh, there we go.
Okay, thank you very much, Jill, and Collin and Isabel for your input there. Some really interesting aspects around that, about its use for surveys and discussion forums and mapping and idea walls and participatory budgeting. I really didn't appreciate that it had so many different sort of projects that you can put onto one platform there. We do have a number of questions. One close to my own heart is around the place standard tool, and one that I was interested in also is, can you use one of those different projects to almost map out then the same responses as you would get within the place standard tool and almost use it, the two together?
Hi, Irene.
Hi.
I don't see that. You might be able to map results, you might be able to confirm, but I don't think it would move easily to that type of question and analysis. It's perhaps better for a more informal input from the public. See, we're working just now on the schools project, both with place standard, and I can't quite see the link. It might be worth a thought, but I don't see it at the moment.
Okay, fair enough. Another question was around, is there an actual app for the social pinpoint that you can have, on mobile phones?
So,
did you want me to answer that?
Oh, yeah, we'll call in your best to describe.
No, there isn't. We found that we didn't want to make people have to install an application. So the web it's built to be web responsive, so they should be able to view it on their phone. What you can do is you can always add the like if you add the engagement, if you go to the web page and then add it to your home, add it to your, what's it called? I think you can click a page on your Safari browser on your phone and add it to your home page, and then it basically acts like an app. But yeah, we just found that we didn't want people to have that extra barrier of installing an application.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So there's nothing preventing the link opening and being entirely readable anyway, but not the need to actually go ahead and download another app on people's phones.
Yeah.
If anyone else has any further questions as we're discussing, please do just type them in at the moment. A further one was around as you were saying, Jill, about it's having that interaction is so valuable. Have you kind of looked at the amount of time that is taking up of officers' time? Are some of those projects more intensive than others, such as a discussion forum, as opposed to an ideas wall? Or have you sort of thought about that and kind of mapped it out a little?
I mean, I would say we're still although we've had the tool for quite a wee bit, we're still in early days, exploring different options. It very much depends on the nature of the project that you've got as to how much interest it's attracting. So we've used it for quite a variety of different things, and some have had limited responses. Some more topical ones were the most recent one on the Town Centre Fund, where we were asking for ideas submitted as part of that. And the officer involved has said to me that they generally spend about 15-20 minutes reviewing the comments as they come in. It's very handy to diarise time to do that and actually tag the comments as they come in, because it means you can produce your reports quite quickly at the end. And really the time has just been taken to making sure you've got the right answer for someone. So he's just had to go maybe ask a couple of questions about how best to respond, but it's been very, very quick in terms of, you might just get someone saying, a question there you've put on, can it work for the place standard? You might go back to them and as Isabel's just commented there, and you're typing it at your computer to do that.
So a further question. Oh, sorry.
One of the advantages is that you can go in and respond to people quickly. So instead of waiting for however long to get a response, you can get one almost in real time. And I think that is a positive aspect of communication.
Okay. Another question very related to this is, have you then, appreciating again, as you say, Jill, it's early days, how many people you've actually kind of reached using this? I'm assuming it's quite easy to see how many people you have coming in and commenting on different projects.
Yeah, the analytics on the tool actually show you the number of hits that the page has had, the number of unique users, and the number of comments left as a kind of lifetime information, and it actually produces graphs showing where the spikes are with the information. Isabel's probably got some stats. Have you, Isabel, on accessible or growth in terms of numbers?
Yeah, we do have a page. It's giving something like 100 odd individual users how long they're on. Quite a few of them are on for several minutes, 5-6 minutes, which is good. We also see when responses are coming in. So if we have had an event, or there has been a release on Social Pinpoint, or on social media, or something has happened, you can track where these events are happening and what sort of impact you're having. So it may be that there are things that you wish to repeat. You can see how the comments are breaking down. You can see which words crop up and whether or not the references are positive or negative. So you get a fair degree of analysis that you can go on through, and you can follow what's happened with the project. And if it's a long-term project, like a local plan or the places for everyone, you can then maybe adapt and respond. You can identify what works and what isn't working. So how long you're getting and where you're getting people. Maybe sometimes it's even what time of day. So yeah, it's good. You can get that as you go.
So it's almost more sophisticated than purely numbers. You can track what may have caused numbers to surge up a little and then repeat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say, Irene, is it very much depends on the nature of the topic. Is it something that interests people? Because we've had some stuff where we've had half a dozen responses, and we've had other ones that are into the hundreds. So it's just, again, is it a topic that gets people stirred up or not?
So in that sort of setup then of each project, how have you managed that? I mean, how much time has it taken to put on a new project? I'd imagine that's possibly differs depending on the project. And have staff had to do a little bit of training in order to know how to do that, or is it quite intuitive?
What I would say is the tool itself is very intuitive. It's got an excellent help support function. To get a basic map up and running can be done very quickly, and we had people who had never used the tool before have a basic map exercise up and running in an hour and a half. What I would say is to actually build the pages and the different tools, you need to have a think about and plan that ahead. And what we found with using the tool is the more we're using it, the more we're learning about what's the best tool for what type of engagement and how we want it structured. So some have taken quite a wee while because we've gone off down a path and thought, that's not working, we're going to have to retract and re-badge how we're doing that. Some has taken a little while just to get, we've had a couple of teething problems, there's been a couple of wee technical issues that we've got, we've had to get resolved, which I would say are generally pretty quick. We have Social Pinpoint online to help us sort those out if somebody's done something that they're not meant to have done. And also the other thing that's probably a wee bit more difficult is some aspects such as the pulling the GIS layers through does need a little bit of knowledge of GIS to be able to do. So we have generally pull in our GIS support technician to help put those together, and he's provided a bit of support to the team just in terms of structuring some of their pages. So I mean, ultimately it depends on the complexity of the project and what you're wanting to put together and how often, like most software, how often you're using the tool as to how familiar you get with it to be able to put that together.
So it sounds like there's more learning there for you to share as you're going through the experience. Where is all of that data held? Is that held on your own Angus Council servers, or is it Pinpoint that hold the data?
It's Social Pinpoint that is held on a UK server, and Collin can, I'll maybe bring Collin in to cover the more technical bits.
Yeah, it's held on our servers, but they're data sovereign, like they're regional hosting depending on the country. So you guys in the UK are stored in UK data centers.
Okay.
And you guys are like, the client owns the data. We don't own the data. We don't do anything with it.
Right. You mentioned, Jill, about having looked around a number of different options before deciding on Pinpoint. What were the other programs you were looking at? You know, what made you decide on Pinpoint as the way forward?
And I was trying to test me off the top of my head to remember them all.
It's because they're really cool, isn't it?
One that we looked at was Commonplace, which I know a few authorities have used before, and we did some demos of that. And it's very much a kind of land use planning based tool, and so that was one we looked at. And if there's another one which is based in the Netherlands, and the name of it has for some reason escaped me. But it does, I'll send it round afterwards. It looks at surveys via maps. There's also a couple of new UK ones, one which I think is called Noto Guide, who were at the very, very early stages of building their tool, and it was so early that they just didn't have much developed. The main basis for us going with Social Pinpoint, one was cost, the ability to interact with users online, and also the usability were the three. After doing testing, was those three were ones that ultimately led us to this particular platform.
Okay, you mentioned cost there, and we have got a couple of questions just in the closing around that. So what has been your rough cost per annum? Are you able to share that?
I'm going to leave Collin to answer that one. You'll have to do the conversion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd probably have to say it in US dollars because I don't have a UK conversion at the moment. But look, it ranges from anywhere from 2,000 US up to about 13,500 US a year. So it just depends on. I think there was a slide back there that said we have single project sort of like consultant type arrangements where if there's a consultant, a planner that they're doing something for a particular project, you can buy a one-off license just to run it on one project. That may or may not be time limited depending on the project. And then in Angus's case, they have a multi-year arrangement with us. So they've been around for that. I think you guys paid 3 years, didn't you, or something like that. So it just depends on that length. But obviously, the higher you get, if you're paying the enterprise subscription level, which is the top one, $13,500 a year in US, then you're basically getting all the bells and whistles, and you get generally on-site training, and you get quarterly account management, and you get a lot more sort of checks like that. Or if you think you can do everything, you don't need as many of the features, you can get it quite cheap, around that $2,000 to $5,000 sort of range for annual licenses that may or may not be feature limited depending on what you need. It's all on our website though. We're pretty open with all that.
Okay, great. Very good.
I've just checked actually, Irene, that other company name, which was Maptioneer, is the company.
Wasn't that Finland? Maptioneer is Finland, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And our social pinpoint just conversion to GB pounds is just over £4,000 for our annual subscription.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Okay, that's the end of the questions that we've had submitted. So I would really just like to thank everyone for taking part. Let everybody know that we will have this whole recording online on our website in about 7 days' time. And we'll also at that point link it into the Partners in Planning website as well, which if you decide to go on Twitter, then I would encourage you to follow the Partners in Planning account also. After this webinar today, there'll be an email that will come out to everybody that will have Twitter account details there, and it will also have an option to have a mailing list and to sign up for our mailing list so that you hear a little bit more about the events and webinars that we have coming up in the future. And please, if you do follow us on Twitter, feel free to tweet at us about topics that you would appreciate having more webinars or events around, because as I said at the beginning, today's events spun out of one of those conversations. Details about the test site that Collin was referring to will also be on that email that will come out, as will Collin's contact details, so you'll be able to get in touch with him as he was inviting you to do earlier. I also wonder, Jill, if when we put that recording out in about 7 days' time, if maybe your video clip that you were referring to would be ready for then, and we could include that as well.
Yep, I hope so. There's an issue with it. It's actually just the website link has changed, and I'm struggling to get somebody to update it. So we've had a problem with the software. So hopefully that should be okay. If not, I'll put a wee kind of, here's the video clip, but by the way, the URL's changed.
Right, okay, and we'll get it there either alongside the recording or at some point after if there's any hiccups. But I think it would be a good guidance for everybody to see what others are doing on that kind of little clips as well. Okay, well, with that, I just would thank everybody for their involvement today. Thank everybody who's listened in and who's submitted questions. Thanks Shetland, who always let us know how many people are listening. So we've got 6 of you up in Shetland today. Hello to you. And it always for us highlights why we run these webinars, because as opposed to our events, face-to-face is great, but this really has a reach across the whole of the country, which is fantastic. I think that's everything. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.